Good to see you again, Julian. And look, I want to get right into this conversation with Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. Brian, let's kick off. Look, it's been an interesting start to the year for Bitcoin. We've seen a big rally, markets generally higher. What's been driving that action?
Yeah, well, I mean, just zooming out, we've seen crypto go through many different cycles over the last 10 years. There's probably been 4 of these cycles where there's irrational exuberance and despair. And so we always just try to zoom out and not get too attached to short-term price fluctuations. But I think you're right. Bitcoin's up 71% year to date. We may have seen the bottom. We may not. We'll have to see. And I think one of the big things driving that is probably, the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank has caused a renewed interest in people saying, hey, what are the alternatives out there? Maybe there's a financial system that's not so connected to the traditional banking system, that's more fair and free and global. And of course, that's cryptocurrency.
Yet, when we look at a bit of the data, we're not yet seeing retail participation back. Volumes remain quite thin. Is that what you're clocking into on Coinbase? Well,
I mean, retail sentiment tends to fluctuate again with these cycles. And so, just zooming out, what we look at is often developer activity, right? That's a good indicator of where things are going in the future. And actually, developer activity is up year over year. Even, in 2022, it came down quite a lot, but the developer activity was up. And so that's a positive indicator. We also shared in our Q4 earnings, for instance, that there's been an increased onboarding of institutional customers. So I think there's been, even though the market has had some turmoil, there's been a flight to quality, and Coinbase is really, the only publicly listed company in the US. Our financials are audited, and so people want to participate in the crypto space, they're going to come to Coinbase.
And look, your share price is up 90-odd% this year as well, in tandem with what we've seen in the markets. Investors are looking at Coinbase's business, wondering what's going to happen next year. Is this a year you return to profitability?
Well, I don't want to make any future forward-looking statements, but I will say I shared this in our Q4 earnings as well. We're adjusting the business to sort of generate EBITDA in any market environment, whether that's up or down. So of course, we had several cost reductions, headcount reductions over the last year. We really want to operate the business with operational efficiency so we can generate that EBITDA. And one thing that was really positive as well, we've seen a big shift in our revenue away from trading fees towards subscription and services, we call it. And so that's now almost half of our revenue. It's making our business a lot more predictable through these big up and down cycles.
Are you expecting to have to do any more layoffs this year?
No. We model out every year with a bull, base, and bear case, and through any of those scenarios, we don't think we'll need to reduce headcount further, but no CEO can predict the future perfectly, and you always have to make sure if something really unforeseen does happen, you adjust quickly.
I know you've been very interested in international expansion here in the UK, in parts of Europe and elsewhere as well. One jurisdiction I wanted to get your thoughts on was Hong Kong, because this is a fascinating one. The Chinese mainland cracked down on crypto over the last few years. Now Hong Kong is sort of trying to position itself as a crypto hub. Is this a new market you're looking at in terms of expansion?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting what's happening in Hong Kong. It is kind of paradoxical with the Chinese government, taking over it. China has, of course, banned crypto as sort of an oppressive regime, but surprisingly, Hong Kong is actually leading a bit in terms of getting that regulatory clarity. And just zooming out, we're actually seeing really good regulatory clarity emerge in Europe with the MiCA legislation. Here in the UK, I've been meeting with top government officials, and there seems to be strong movement towards a stablecoin bill. We're seeing some of that in Singapore and other countries around the world. So I think that's really positive, and basically that's the big thing that'll unlock growth in crypto is we need that regulatory clarity. We actually need more of that in the US. The US is a little bit behind on this, and certain regulators are taking more of a regulation by enforcement approach, which is not helping.
Yeah, and you've been sort of talking and been pretty critical of the SEC and others as well in terms of their regulatory approach. What does that mean for Coinbase's business in terms of, are you looking at other jurisdictions to set up shop in terms of headquarters, relocation, anything of that sort?
Yeah. Well, we're a business with like any business, we have a budget and we have to decide where to allocate it. And so that means what products we want to build, but it also means what countries we want to invest in any given year. And with the US kind of lagging a little bit, having this regulation by enforcement approach that's really, instead of just creating a clear rule book so that everybody has to play on a level playing field, we are looking at other markets. I think the UK is actually a very good one for us. It's it's the first country we went into outside of the US. It's our second highest revenue country. And the UK, we've seen really great leadership from everyone from the PM, the city minister, kind of talking about how they want crypto to be based here in the UK. They want it to be a Web3 hub. That's really attractive for us. And so we have an office here, we have a presence. I think we're probably going to invest more.
Let's talk about the SEC a little bit. They issued you a Wells notice not too long ago. Have you got more clarity on precisely what the SEC is worried about right now?
Unfortunately, no. We've met with them over 30 times in the last year. And then, of course, they allowed us to go public. As an S1, we filed and had many in-depth conversations with them about our business. But even over the last year, we had 30 meetings. Never got a single piece of feedback from them about what we could be doing better or differently. And then this Wells notice arrived. And so it's really unfortunate. I think we're going to have to actually end up going to court to get the clarity we need and create that case law. It's an abdication of responsibility. I mean, the regulator's job is to publish a clear rule book and allow that market to be safe, but also to flourish in that country. And I think they've completely abdicated responsibility.
Investors are worried that this could turn out to be a years-long battle. We've seen with Ripple, for example, and the SEC, this is been going on for some time. Are you prepared for a battle with the SEC of this kind of length?
Absolutely. I mean, we never seek litigation, but it seems in this case that they have initiated it. And if we need to get the courts to get the clarity that we need, then we're very prepared to do that. I think the law is on our side, and the SEC has to follow rule of law. I think their actions would not be sympathetic to a jury. And so we're very prepared for this. We're going to court to win, just to be clear. I think we have a very strong case, and that's exactly what we intend to do.
In terms of regulation in the US, what is it that you would like to see at this point? Because the SEC has been very much leading by enforcement at this point in time. Other jurisdictions like here in the UK very much thinking about how to bring crypto assets into the regulatory fold, etc. So what is it in terms of the US that you'd like to see?
Yeah, so there's a few pieces. I think getting a clear stablecoin bill passed in the US, that would be a great first step. There's a couple parties already working on this. The next big piece, I think, would be to get comprehensive legislation around the centralized actors in crypto. Let's not figure out the decentralized thing. I'll talk about that in a second. But there's clear consensus that the centralized exchanges, custodians, et cetera, should be regulated. They can apply a lot of the best practices from traditional financial services. Europe has already done it. UK is working on it. So there's no reason why the US needs to be left behind. I think getting clarity about what's a commodity and what's a security. We have this crazy situation right now where the heads of these two federal regulators in the US are making contradictory statements almost every few weeks about, Ethereum, for instance. Like the CFTC says it's a commodity, the SEC says it's security. So of course, how is a business supposed to operate in this environment where even the federal regulators can't agree?
Chair Gensler would argue, well, look, we've told you what they are. We've said what a security is. We've been very clear on that.
Yeah. But what am I supposed to do if the other federal regulator that we have to work with is saying something contradictory, right? And I want to make a good point here, which is that, him making a speech is not regulation. It's offering an opinion. We need something clear, and there's something called the Administrative Procedures Act in the US. They're required by law to engage with industry, have a comment period, and publish a clear rulebook, and they are not doing that. And so this rhetoric, kind of playing for political points or to the media is not helping anybody. In fact, it's causing a lot of harm to the US economy and the US consumer.
Brian, I just want to get your take on a couple more things. Firstly, your stock. You've been selling it over the past few months. There's been a lot of speculation made from the crypto community about why this is happening. How do you respond, and particularly around the SEC Wells notice when there's more stock being sold?
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, I think about a year ago, I mentioned I was going to sell about 2% of my holdings over the next year. And so, it's important for me to kind of fund other initiatives in science and technology. And I think, if you've been working on something for 10 years and, 97% of your net worth is in it, I'm going to slowly, over the next 5-10 years, slowly diversify out of that.
And just your outlook now for the rest of the year. What are your expectations in terms of the broader market? You mentioned institutional players are sort of coming back into the fold. Do you expect those retail participants to come back in, or do you think they've just been heavily burned by the last cycle?
Retail investors, their sentiment fluctuates along with crypto prices, or it's not even necessarily prices because that's very trading focused. It's really about what are the new use cases. So in past crypto cycles, we saw things like NFTs people got excited about, or DeFi, right? And new emerging use cases. I think those are the things which tend to drive these crypto price cycles. And so, I feel very confident that crypto is going to increase over a long period of time. But what happens any given quarter or month or year, I don't know.